The door clicked shut. It was the loudest sound I had ever heard. To anyone else, it was just a door. To me, it was the sound of a cage closing. I wasn't a bride. I was a prisoner. I sat on the edge of the large, circular bed. It was covered in red rose petals. The scent was supposed to be romantic. Instead, it felt like a funeral. My heavy gold jewelry felt like lead weights pulling me down. My dress was beautiful, expensive, and red. But as I looked at my reflection in the mirror, I didn't see a girl starting a new life. I saw a girl whose life had just ended. I didn't look at him. I couldn't. He was standing by the large window, looking out at the city lights. His back was to me. He still wore his black wedding coat. He looked powerful. He looked cold. He looked like the man everyone warned me about. A single tear escaped and rolled down my cheek. Then another. I tried to breathe quietly. I didn't want him to hear me cry. I didn't want to show him my weakness. But my chest felt tight. My hands were shaking in my lap. How did I get here? Just 3 weeks ago, I was happy. I had dreams. I had a plan for my college and my future. Then, everything collapsed. My father's business didn't just fail, it vanished. He didn't just lose money, he owed it to people you don't say no to. My family was on the verge of the street. Then, he appeared. Aryan. He didn't offer a loan. He offered a contract. He would pay every debt. He would save my father from jail. He would keep our house. In return, he wanted me. My father cried. My mother begged. But I saw the fear in their eyes. I saw the gray in my father's hair. I realized that my freedom was the price for their lives. I said yes. I signed my name on a paper that felt like a death warrant. Throughout the wedding events, Aryan never smiled. He never looked at me with kindness. He treated the ceremony like a business merger. People whispered that he was heartless. They said he was a man who got what he wanted, no matter the cost. And tonight, he finally had what he paid for. The silence in the room was breaking me. I wiped my eyes quickly with the back of my hand, but the sobbing wouldn't stop. It was a small, broken sound. I heard him move. The sound of his leather shoes on the marble floor made my heart stop. Step. 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 He was coming closer. I squeezed my eyes shut. My entire body went stiff. I gripped the silk bedsheet so hard my knuckles turned white. "Stop crying," he said. His voice was deep. It wasn't loud, but it had a command in it that made me shiver. It wasn't the voice of a lover. It was the voice of a master. He was standing right in front of me now. I could see the tips of his shoes. I could smell his expensive cologne, sandalwood and smoke. He reached out his hand. I flinched. I pulled back so fast I almost fell off the bed. My breath came in sharp, jagged gasps. I looked up at him, my eyes wide and filled with pure terror. I looked like a trapped animal waiting for the blow. Aryan froze. His hand stayed in midair. His expression was unreadable. His eyes were dark, like a stormy sea. He looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time that night. He didn't move forward. He didn't get angry. He just stood there, his hands slowly dropping back to his side. "Do you think I'm going to hurt you?" he asked quietly. I couldn't find my voice. My throat was too tight. I just stared at him, my chest heaving. Everything I had heard about him, every rumor of his cruelty, flashed through my mind. He took a step back. Not a step forward, but a step back. "Stay on the bed," he commanded. He turned around and walked toward the sofa on the other side of the room. He threw his coat on the armrest and loosened his tie. He didn't look back at me. "I'm not going to touch you, Zoya. I didn't buy a toy. I bought a wife. Now, go to sleep. The door is locked from the inside. You're safe, for now." He sat down on the small sofa, crossed his legs, and picked up a book. He didn't look at me again. I stayed frozen on the edge of the bed. My heart was still racing. He said I was safe, but his voice was like ice. He said he wouldn't touch me, but he called it a purchase. I didn't move for hours. I watched him. He didn't look up from his book. He didn't sleep. He just sat there, guarding the door, or perhaps, guarding his prize. I realized then that this wasn't just a forced marriage. This was a war. And I had no idea who the real enemy was. The first week wasn't filled with shouting. It was filled with something much worse, silence. A house can be a home, or it can be a graveyard of words. Aryan's mansion felt like the latter. It was beautiful, filled with marble floors and crystal chandeliers, but it was freezing. Every morning, I woke up on the giant bed, alone. Every morning, I found him gone before the sun was fully up. We didn't share breakfast. We didn't share stories. We shared a roof, and that was all. When he did come home in the evening, the air in the room would change. It became heavy. I would sit in the corner of the library or the living room, trying to be invisible. I was waiting for the monster to show himself. I was waiting for him to demand something from me. But he never did. On the third night, I gathered enough courage to speak. My voice felt rusty, like a gate that hadn't been opened in years. "Aryan," I whispered as he walked past me in the hallway. He stopped. He didn't turn around. His shoulders were broad, blocking the light from the lamp behind him. I want to go visit my mother," I said, my heart hammering against my ribs. "No," he said. The word was like a shutter slamming shut. I felt a surge of anger through my fear. "Why? You paid the debt. You have me. Why can't I see my family?" He turned then. His face was a mask of cold stone. "Because those are the rules, Zoya. You live in this house now. You follow my schedule. You don't leave this gate without my permission. Do not ask me again." He stepped closer, towering over me. "You wanted to save your father? This is the price. Total obedience. Nothing less." I looked at him with pure loathing. He was exactly what the world said he was. A man who bought people to control them. A man who enjoyed the power of saying no. I retreated to my room and locked the door, sobbing into my pillow. I hated him. I hated his rules. I hated his cold, dark eyes. But as the days turned into a week, the monster started to confuse me. If he was so cruel, why did he never come near me at night? I started watching him through the reflection in the vanity mirror. Every night, the routine was the same. He would enter the bedroom late, long after he thought I was asleep. He would never turn on the big lights. He moved like a shadow, trying not to make a sound. One night, I pretended to be deep in sleep, but my eyes were slightly open. I watched Aryan approach the bed. My heart raced. Was this it? Was he finally going to drop the act? He stood there for a long time, just looking at me. His face wasn't cold anymore. It looked tired. Haunted. He reached out a hand as if to brush a stray hair from my forehead, but he stopped himself inches away. His fingers trembled slightly. He pulled back, his jaw tightening. Then, he did something I didn't expect. He took a thin blanket from the closet. He didn't climb into the bed. He sat on the hard, wooden chair by the window. He stayed there all night. Sometimes I would wake up at 3 a.m. and see the glow of his cigarette on the balcony, or see him sitting on the floor, leaning his head against the wall, staring at the door. He wasn't sleeping. He was watching. I began to notice other small things. The maid brought me my favorite meals, dishes I hadn't even asked for. Mr. Aryan insisted on this menu, she would say. I found books on my bedside table, titles I had mentioned in passing to my mother weeks ago. And then there were the phone calls. I overheard him in his office one evening. His voice was hushed but furious. I don't care about the cost, Aryan hissed into the phone. Keep the guards at her father's house. If anyone from the syndicate even breathes near that street, I want them handled. Zoya can never know they were there. She has to believe she's safe because of the marriage, not because of the war I'm fighting. I stood frozen behind the door. What war? Who was at my father's house? He stayed up late not because he was cold, but because he was a sentry. He slept on the floor not because he was a monster, but because he wouldn't touch a woman who didn't want him. The question began to burn in my mind, louder than my fear. Is Aryan my captor, or is he my shield? The silence of the house was shattered on a Tuesday afternoon. Aryan was at the office, or so I thought. I was in the garden, trying to find some peace among the white lilies, when I heard a commotion at the front gate. It was my uncle, my father's younger brother. He was a man known for his gambling and his sharp tongue. He had never liked me, and he certainly didn't respect my father. He had forced his way past the nervous maid. When he saw me, he didn't offer a hug or a kind word. He laughed. It was a dry, mocking sound. So, here's the sacrifice, he sneered, walking toward me. Living in a palace built on your father's failures. Do you know what they say in the neighborhood, Zoya? They say you didn't marry for family. They say you jumped at the chance to be a rich man's property. Leave, uncle, I said, my voice trembling. You have no right to be here. I have every right. Your father still owes me money. Since you're the one who sold herself to the highest bidder, maybe you should pay his tab. He reached out, his hand gripping my arm tightly. Give me those gold bangles. You don't need them. You're just a trophy in a cage anyway. I tried to pull away, but his grip was like iron. Fear, cold and familiar, washed over me. I felt small. I felt like the helpless girl who had been traded for a debt. The voice didn't come from behind me. It came from the balcony above. Aryan was standing there. He wasn't wearing his suit jacket. His sleeves were rolled up, and his face was darker than I had ever seen it. He didn't walk down the stairs, he moved like a predator descending on its prey. Within seconds, he was in the garden. He didn't yell. He didn't scream. He simply walked up to my uncle and wrapped his hand around my uncle's wrist. The sound of bones groaning under pressure was sickening. My uncle let out a yelp and released me. She is my wife, Aryan said, his voice a low, terrifying growl. And in this house, her word is law. If you ever lay a hand on her again, if you even look in her direction, I will make sure you never walk again. Do you understand? My uncle, a man who was usually so loud and brave, turned pale. He saw the monster in Aryan's eyes, the same monster I had been afraid of. But for the first time, that monster wasn't looking at me. It was standing in front of me. Get out, Aryan commanded. My uncle stumbled back, tripped, and then ran toward the gate without looking back. The garden went silent again. My heart was thumping against my ribs so hard it hurt. I looked at Aryan. He was breathing heavily, his chest rising and falling. He looked shaken. I took a small step toward him. "Aryan," I started. My voice was soft. "Thank you. You didn't have to do that." He stiffened. The fire in his eyes went out, replaced instantly by that cold, icy wall he always kept between us. He didn't look at me. He looked at the ground where my uncle had been standing. "I didn't do it for you," he said. The words were sharp, like a slap. I blinked, confused. "But," he was hurting me. "You saved me." "I did it because no one insults what belongs to me," he snapped, finally looking at me. His eyes were hard again. "It's a matter of pride, Zoya. Nothing more. Don't make the mistake of thinking this changes anything." He turned on his heel and walked back into the house, leaving me alone in the garden. I stood there for a long time, the scent of the lilies suddenly feeling overwhelming. "I didn't do it for you." His words hurt, but his actions told a different story. I looked at my arm. There were faint red marks where my uncle had gripped me, but they were already fading. What wasn't fading was the image of Aryan standing over me, acting as my shield. My mind was a mess of contradictions. "I hate him," I told myself. "He's arrogant. He's cold. He thinks I'm an object." But another voice, a smaller, quieter one, whispered, "But he saw you. He saw you were scared." And for 1 second, he looked like he wanted to burn the world down just because someone made you cry. I realized then that the hate wasn't as solid as it used to be. It was cracking. In its place was a terrifying, suffocating confusion. Why did he stay up all night? Why did he protect my father in secret? Why did he defend me today and then push me away the moment I tried to be kind? He was a puzzle with missing pieces. And for the first time since the first night, I didn't want to run away from him. I wanted to find the pieces. I wanted to know who Aryan really was behind that mask of ice. I wasn't just a prisoner anymore. I was an observer. And the more I watched, the more I realized that the man I feared might be the only person in the world truly on my side. The house was quieter than usual. Aryan had been called away for an emergency meeting, leaving his office door slightly ajar for the first time. I knew I shouldn't enter. It was his sanctuary, his fortress of secrets. But the confusion in my heart was too loud to ignore. I pushed the door open. The room smelled of old paper and the same sandalwood cologne that haunted my dreams. I walked to his desk. It was perfectly organized, except for a leather folder tucked under a heavy paperweight. A corner of a photograph was sticking out. I pulled it out. It was a photo of me. But it wasn't a wedding photo. It was a photo taken months ago, at my university. I was laughing with my friends, unaware I was being watched. Behind the photo was a stack of legal documents and a handwritten letter, addressed to Aryan's lawyer. I started reading. My hands began to shake. The documents weren't about a debt. They were about a threat. My father hadn't just lost money to a bank. He had borrowed from a man named Sahil, a man known for his brutality and his obsession with collecting beautiful things. My father had reached a point where he couldn't pay. Sahil didn't want the money anymore. He wanted me. The letters showed that Sahil had planned to take me by force. My father, desperate and terrified, had gone to Aryan, his former student, and begged for help. Aryan's response was written in a memo: "If I give your father the money, Sahil will just take it and come for Zoya anyway. The only way to stop a predator is to put her under the protection of someone he fears more. I will marry her. I will take the heat. I will be the one the world hates. I felt the air leave my lungs. Aryan hadn't hunted me. He had stepped in front of a bullet meant for me. He had used his own reputation as a cold, ruthless man to scare off a monster. I turned the page to the handwritten letter. It was dated the night of our wedding. She looks at me with so much horror, he had written. His handwriting was jagged, as if he were writing in pain. It kills me to see her flinch. But it's better this way. If she hates me, she won't feel guilty when she eventually leaves. If she thinks I'm the villain, she won't realize how much danger she was truly in. I will keep her in this cage until Sahil is handled. Then, I will set her free. She deserves a life of love, even if it's not with me. Every no he had said to me. Every time he refused to let me leave the house. Every night he spent sitting on the floor, guarding the door. He wasn't keeping me in. He was keeping the world out. He had let me yell at him. He had let me call him heartless. He had accepted my loathing as a price for my safety. He was the monster in the light so that I could sleep safely in the dark. I collapsed into his leather chair, the papers clutched to my chest. I thought about the garden, how he had crushed my uncle's wrist. He wasn't protecting his property. He was protecting the girl in the photograph, the girl he had been watching over for months. Suddenly, the door opened. Aryan stood there. He looked tired, his tie undone, his eyes weary. He saw me in his chair. He saw the papers in my hand. For the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. Not the fear of a fight, but the fear of being seen. Zoya, he whispered, stepping forward. You weren't supposed to see that. I stood up, my face wet with tears. I didn't flinch this time. I didn't move away. Why? I choked out. Why didn't you tell me? Why did you let me hate you for so long? He stopped, a few feet away. He looked away, his jaw tight. Because hating me was easier for you. If you knew the truth, you would have felt like a burden. I never wanted you to feel like you owed me your life. I just wanted you to have your life. I looked at him, really looked at him. I saw the dark circles under his eyes from weeks of not sleeping. I saw the loneliness he had lived in to keep me safe. You didn't buy a wife, I said, my voice trembling. You saved a girl who didn't even know she was drowning. Aryan didn't answer. He just stood there, the cruel mask finally shattered into 1,000 pieces. The silence was still there, but it wasn't heavy anymore. It was full of a truth that changed everything. The truth had set me free, but the house felt emptier than ever. I walked toward our bedroom, my heart heavy with everything I had learned. I wanted to talk to him. I wanted to apologize. I wanted to thank him. But when I pushed the door open, I stopped. In the middle of the room stood 2 large, black suitcases. They were packed. They were ready. On the bed, the same bed where I had spent so many nights in fear, lay a white envelope. Beside it was a set of car keys and a new passport. My hands trembled as I opened the envelope. It wasn't a love letter. It was a freedom kit. Divorce papers, signed by him. A deed to a small apartment in a city hundreds of miles away. A bank account in my name. He wasn't just giving me my life back. He was removing himself from it. I spun around. Aryan was standing in the doorway. He looked different. He wasn't the monster anymore, but he wasn't the hero either. He just looked like a man who had finished a very long, very difficult job. I handled Sahil, he said. His voice was flat. Emotionless. The police have him. Your father's debts are cleared. You are safe. You don't have to be a purchase anymore. I looked at the suitcases. You're leaving. No, he replied quietly. You are. There is a car waiting outside. It will take you to the airport. Your new life is ready. No one knows where you are going. You can start over. You can find the love you actually wanted. And you? I asked, my voice cracking. He shrugged. I go back to my life. The one I had before I dragged you into this mess. The room felt like it was shrinking. The tension was exactly like the first night, but the roles had flipped. He was the one trying to escape now. He was the one who wouldn't look me in the eye. He walked past me to grab the handle of the suitcase. Don't go, I whispered. He stopped. His grip on the handle tightened. Don't do that, Zoya. Don't be kind because you feel guilty. I did what I had to do. Now, I'm doing what is right. And what is right? I stepped in front of him, blocking his path. Letting you go, he said. He finally looked at me. His eyes were full of a deep, ancient pain. I am the man who forced you. I am the man who made you cry. I am the man who locked you in a cage. You can't love a man like that. You didn't lock me in a cage, I said, stepping closer. You built a fortress. It's still a prison if you didn't choose to be there, he snapped. He tried to move around me. I'm choosing it now. I shouted. He froze. The silence returned, but it was electric. I'm letting you go, he repeated. His voice was a broken promise. I don't want to be free of you, I replied. You deserve better. I deserve you. He shook his head. You hate me. You told me you hated me. I hated the mask, I said, reaching out. This time, I didn't flinch. I touched his hand. His skin was burning. I love the man who stayed awake all night to make sure I could sleep. He looked at my hand on his. He looked like he was seeing a miracle. I have done bad things, Zoya, he whispered. To protect you, I became someone I don't like. Then let me help you find yourself again, I said. I took the suitcase handle from his hand and let it go. It fell to the floor with a heavy thud. The sound of finality. The contract is over, Aryan, I said, looking into his eyes. The marriage is over. He looked crushed. I know. Now, I whispered, ask me to stay. Not as a debt. Not as a purchase. Ask me because you want me. Aryan looked at me for a long time. The cold reality was gone. The silent war was over. He reached out, his hand finally touching my cheek, his thumb brushing away a tear. Stay, he breathed. Please, stay. I didn't answer with words. I leaned forward and rested my head against his chest. I could hear his heart. It was beating fast. It was beating for me. The suitcases stayed in the middle of the room, forgotten. The door was still there, but for the first time in my life, I wasn't looking for the key. I had already found the way out, by staying right where I was.